Alaska's word of the day, muti, salt.
Never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. Every experience, whether good or bad, holds a lesson. In every challenge, there's growth. Every failure offers wisdom. Life is constantly evolving, and so should we. The moment we think we know it all, we close the door to possibility. Stay curious, stay open, and remember that every day is an opportunity to become a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little better than before.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Oil Runners. We are talking about narcissism and definitely all the different behaviors and all kinds of things. This is the first episode of many with Phoenix Gold. So we want to thank her for coming on. So is Coach Phoenix Gold. And so if you have any questions, we're just going to go live or here live. But any questions, chime in. We'll talk about it, and it's all about the healing and making sure that we understand what it is, how we can attack it, and move on from it, and just sharing our lives because we deserve to live a better life. So welcome, Phoenix, and thank you for coming on and talking about narcissism and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Christina, for the invitation. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. So how did you become a coach for all this?
I had a lot of struggles when I was younger. I grew up with a narcissistic mother. Mm-hmm. And when I was 21, 22, I realized that I had tremendous difficulties being in social situations. I would constantly freeze and I didn't know what to say. And it got so bad that I became really self-conscious whenever I was talking to someone. And I could almost see myself like from the outside, just standing there and freezing. And I didn't know why. And I really needed help. And I found this amazing mentor of mine who was partially psychologist and partially trained by his indigenous community as a shaman. And he mixed those two forms of healing. And I started working with him on my social anxiety. And he was able to help me through, years to develop so much and to grow so much. That I never stopped my healing journey. I found it so interesting. So I just kept going and going. And about 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to help others on the same path of healing.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we kind of have the similar thing growing up, and definitely with narcissists. Like, I don't think I know anything else. It's kind of weird being on that other side and just be like, oh, wait, am I supposed to really feel that way? That's how it actually feels? Or like, it's really scary on that end when you're outside of the norm. So what is a narcissist in terms like?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So a narcissist is someone who is really just so focused on themselves that others really don't exist as human beings. They see other human beings more as a tool or an appliance to give them what they need. And so they at their inner core, they are feeling a lot of shame. Mm-hmm. They have a really low self-esteem, which is interesting because we think of narcissists as like super confident and super outgoing, but that's just a mask that they are putting on because they cannot bear to feel that feeling of being insufficient and that feeling of shame that they hold at the core. And so they manipulate others. That's all they do is manipulation of every interaction and of every situation they're in to serve their needs. And the needs that they have is to get admiration, or if they can't get admiration, then at least attention. And then it's also okay if other people are really angry with them, or really mad at them, or really frustrated with them. That doesn't really matter. As long as they get attention and they feel that they are in charge of the situation and of what the other person is feeling, they feel empowered and they feel strong, and they have that mask of, they're the best, they control everything, and that avoids for them to feel that deep feeling of shame.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, an incident, like, how would I say that in the incident? So say if, like I was working for a person who has that narcissistic personality, right? And I know I'm like sweeping properly and doing exactly what they say, but yet obviously they come up to me and saying I'm completely doing it wrong, and even though that they just said it, and then my body just kind of goes into a like in a depression mode or whatever it is, like it's just not a good feeling, but you want to scream and yell all the time at them, but that's not your personality. But like, and you just can't prove it all the time. Like, look, even though you show them, you just said, how would you deal with those feelings? And can you get out of those feelings and just like move on, let them scream and yell and not feel those things?
Ooh, that's really hard, because being in the presence of a narcissist, especially one that you're working for, is a situation that is very difficult to escape, right? So if you're depending on that work and you are in the presence of that person and they treat you like that, it's very difficult to take that personally, right? It's very difficult to not be affected when you're constantly being criticized, when you're constantly being put down, and when you're constantly being told different things, and you just can't measure up. That's very difficult. In that moment, I think if we can realize that it is a narcissist we're dealing with, if we can, there's an extra sound here. I don't know if you hear it.
I don't have it on my end. I don't hear anything.
Yeah. So if you know that you're dealing with a narcissist, that can be very helpful, because then at least you will not take it personally, right? Then at least okay, this is not about me. It's just about that person needing to feel powerful. So maybe that helps to just let it go in the one ear and out on the other side. But in reality, it's very hard to escape those feelings, right? Especially when they're constant. And so what I would say, if you are working with a narcissist, or if you have a narcissistic boss, try to spend as little time as possible with them, as little time one-on-one. Try to always be with them when other people are around, and maybe even document what is going on, so that later on, when things start to fall apart, you have some kind of proof of what was happening. But yeah, it's very difficult to escape those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, even with your body, like if you just have it in one ear and one out, one going in one ear out the other, your body remembers that stuff. Like no matter how happy I did find that, like how happy you are, like going and you just move on, like the body just starts to feel like it's like it got hit by a truck out of nowhere, and starts deteriorating and whatnot. Over time, or
Yes.
and going into PTSD mode.
Yeah. That's why the recommendation is, if you can, switch work, because it's a very difficult environment to live in. And then we know statistically that stress at work is one of the big indicators of autoimmune diseases, right? Or issues in the body. So if you can leave, it would be best to leave, find another kind of work, because to escape a narcissistic boss is very difficult.
Yeah, and that kind of sucks if it's like a job that you're passionate about. It's like, oh, I love everything else, but it kind of sucks that the that the boss kind of has issues.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and then and having that with a narcissist, having a kid with a narcissistic parent and dealing with that, and then having to deal with going to court 24/7 because they somehow get on the other level, kind of. It's like everybody's they're like 10 steps ahead of you, it seemed. And it's like, really? Like, I'm the one in the right. I did everything I was told to do. But no, like, I had it sometimes. Definitely people, they block everything or whatever it is. But yeah, like, how would you deal with that kind of stuff? I mean, I know not dealing with them personally, but you're stuck with them for the rest of your life, and then having to train your child up into a situation and getting them grown up before they're even grown up.
I mean, you're really mentioning the two most difficult situations, right? One is when you're dependent on your work and you're stuck with a boss or a coworker, and the other one is one of the hardest is when you are co-parenting with a narcissist, because you're right, you cannot escape it. Your child is that connection point, and they have a lot of power over you, right? Because they will do exactly what they know that you don't want to happen.
Right.
Yes. And so, we need to know that we cannot win with a narcissist. There is nothing we can do. There's no way to behave with them that will ensure that we will win. They will always win. The narcissistic boss will win. Your narcissistic ex will win in so many ways, because they just have that strong influence over you. They have a lot of manipulation power. And because you share a child, which you care about deeply, and they have potential 50% access to that child.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are certain strategies that we could talk about. It depends on what we want to talk about today that you could implement, when you're co-parenting with another narcissistic ex, or, it just depends on what we want to get into.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people, they definitely had questions about dealing with a parent on their own, like how you had of being a child of a narcissistic, and then the actually parenting with a narcissistic person, and defending the child, at least trying to make sure that they're going to grow up the best version of themselves. Those were the two things that people wanted to know about. So
should we talk about those?
Absolutely. If we can get into those, I mean, just go for it.
Yeah. Let's start with the one where you've grown up with a narcissistic parent, right? Mm-hmm. When we've grown up with a narcissistic parent, we have to realize that we did not get a core that other people would naturally get if they were grew up in a normal family, right? If we grew up in a normal family, there will be enough unconditional love for the child, which makes the child feel that, okay, I'm a good person. I deserve to be loved and treated well. Right. We didn't get that. The message we got was, you are eternally flawed. You can do nothing right, so you better try harder. You only deserve love if you fulfill my expectations and my needs. And so we never develop a core in which we feel that, oh, I'm a good person. Great. Mm-hmm. I'm essentially lovable. Yes, I make mistakes, but my essence is lovable, and I'm capable. And so we didn't get that. We go into the world feeling that there's something wrong with us at the core. And that leads to people pleasing all over the place, because that is the pattern that we've learned. We will only receive connection and validation and attention and love when we please other people. So we never really got the chance to develop our own personality. That was not encouraged, right? We were trained to become a chameleon and to figure out what the other person needs and how to give that to them. And then hopefully in return to receive some kind of affection or love. Right. Which is where, that social anxiety really starts. One, we can see that other people have a really easy time communicating with each other. And we're realizing that we can't. They're spontaneous. We realize, oh my God, I can't even be spontaneous. I don't even know what that is, because in order to stay safe, we had to weigh every word. We were saying something very carefully, and then we waited for the narcissist's response. Was it received well or not? If it was not received well, then we'd move it a little bit over and we'd say something else and see how that lands. So we are always shaping our interaction with other people in order to stay safe. Because with a narcissist, not only did we not receive love, but we were then severely punished, right? Through the silent treatment, through ignoring, through the loss of connection, the loss of love, which is terrifying when you're a child. And so we develop all these patterns in order to keep us safe, and they're very difficult to unlearn. Also because we don't really have a sense of self.
Right. So are we stuck with it? That's the one question I personally have.
Mm-hmm.
Going through my journey is that, I mean, I'm okay when I'm on my own, technically. Yeah, like door closed, I can go out in the mountains, all that stuff. Like I can have a happy day, but then all of a sudden, like I go into my body or my brain's just like, oh, like you said, the core is just like you were told you weren't enough, and all of a sudden I'm like having these thoughts of I'm not even enough for a marriage. Like, even though I know I can do it, personally, but I am so scared. Like, does that stuff go away? No matter how hard I try or how hard a person tries, does it go away, or are we stuck with that?
It does go away when we do the right work. I was really lucky that I found a mentor who took me on a path of what he called remaking myself.
Okay.
This was like a mix of Native American Indian healing and Western psychology. And yes, I mean, I had no sense of self at all. I thought that if anyone got to know me, they would be so shocked and turn and run the other way, and I'd be abandoned forever.
Yeah.
And now, it didn't really take that long, until I got to know myself and build that core that we never got. That's the path. We need to rebuild that core that we should have gotten from those loving parents. We can rebuild that ourselves if we know how. And that's the path I was taken on, right? And that is what I do now, is I take people on that path to rebuild that core, because we can see that other people who have that core, for them, life is easy.
Yeah.
Right? They might still have struggles, but they know how to solve those problems, and there is no overwhelm, no emotional overwhelm. But for us, before we have that core, everything is emotionally overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yes, you can change that. You can build that core for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, because that's something I've always had an issue with. Does it go away? It's almost like being in a gravesite, still alive. It's like, just let me die. Like, you grieve, all that stuff. Like, well, I'm just like, okay, well, everything just keeps going and going and going. It's like, look, just let me go. We're good. I'm not saying I'm going on a, it's just, I want to, like, how a person leaves this earth, we have a funeral, we go through the process of the grief and all that, and then they are laid to rest. They're in their little thing. We move on in our own way. It just felt like I couldn't get out of that. Like, just, I'm just sitting there at the grave while people are just doing their own lives and took everything from me or whatever it is. And I'm just watching it, and they just won't let it go. Like, I can let it go. Just let me go. I just want to lay there, do my thing, and move into a new person, kind of thing. So that's best way I can describe it is that I cannot do it properly.
Yeah. Yes, it's absolutely possible. I'm so super excited to talk about this, because I didn't know that when I started. I thought I was going to be stuck in there forever, and I suffered, and I thought, my God, how am I going to live life like this? I don't want to live life like this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're watching everybody's life on TV, technically.
Yeah.
You know, while you're sitting on the couch, just it's like, oh, with all these daggone feelings that you can't get rid of, that's just random, like, and it's just random crying. It's like, wait, I was just happy 2 seconds ago. What happened? Like nothing triggered it, but just like, yeah. And then having that people pleasing or just that niceness. You don't want to hurt people genuinely, you know, even hurting the person who is hurting you. That's hard to get out of or hard to navigate through.
Yeah, you know, I think we develop into super strong empaths because we have to, right? In order to survive, we have to become super sensors. And so we are very much attuned to other people. But we also learn that we are responsible for other people's feelings and happiness. That's what we've learned, but that's not the truth, right?
Yeah.
And so we're taking on responsibility that we should never have taken on as a child.
Right.
And we continue that. You know, there are many patterns that we have learned. And so part of the work is to uncover those patterns and to question them.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, you know, to look for alternatives and practice things, try things out. That's part of the work. The other part of the work of rebuilding that core is what I call radical self-love, which is like another huge, you know, subject, but it is one of the really most essential healing tools in building that core, which is that, you know, we didn't receive enough unconditional love. So in order to create that core that feels good enough, we need to give ourselves that unconditional love, which is, you know, I remember when I started my journey, I could read that in every self-help book. You've got to love yourself more. You've got to love yourself more. And here are the exercises. Go in front of a mirror and look into your eyes and say, I love you. I love you. But whenever I did that, I just stood there crying. I'm like, because I realized I did not love myself. I couldn't get myself to say it. Or when I did say it, it felt so fake and so wrong. And I was like, where do you even start? When you can't tell yourself that you love yourself, when you say that, all the doubts are coming up and making you suffer and cry, right?
Yeah.
There's a process that I call radical self-love that makes it very, very easy to love yourself. So if you want to, we could get into it this time or another time. I don't know where you want to go today, because
today is just like that everything, and then you know, we'll just kind of go through like the certain topics that we had, you know, and kind of go into more depth on it, but definitely open to everything.
Okay.
When you were talking about that self-love and all that stuff, that kind of reminded me about a trip I took out here. And I don't know if you heard about the whole trend that everybody was doing. Would you rather choose a bear or a man? Have you heard about that trend?
No.
Okay, so there was a trend going on social media about, would you, like, especially with the females or the women, would you rather have trust a bear or trust a man? You know, and they, you know, I was like, wow, I actually chose the bear, you know, because to me, I felt unsafe with humans, period. Like men, women, didn't matter. I felt unsafe, certain humans, but it took me a minute. But a lot of people did choose the bear, and learning about, you know what I mean? And so I was like, maybe I need to go look into this more. But that actually helped me, because I actually had done a trip that I was in. It was when I first got up here. I've been up here in Alaska for like 8 years so far. And I started crying at work, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to go through therapy again, because I thought I was okay. I was just randomly crying at work. Don't know why. I was happy. Nothing triggered it, right? Like, it was absolutely nothing. I was in my happy days. And my therapist, she opened up some things, which is absolutely fine. It was like opening up some pores. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that existed. But okay. You know, went to go drive the car back over to my mom and everything. They went out to to the state fair, and I ended up having all these feelings of I want to drink alcohol, do drugs, and all of that. Like I spend my money. I need to, get it all out. And I was like, no, no, no. I'm going to, before I leave this place, I'm going to go fix my face. I'm not going to spend that money. I know where I can get drugs. And that used to be my go-to to leave, and have everything. So I ended up driving the Seward Highway, and things just happened. And then one day, the day after I drove, like everything was fine. And then a bear actually ended up sitting in front of me. And I looked and I had my camera on. I was like, huh, okay. Because I was always told, you are nothing. You are like a horrible person or whatever it was. So like I found out I was fighting a mirage of myself that people made up of me, so I had no identity truly. They didn't see me. They saw this mirage that they made. So either way, this bear decided not to kill me. And he just sat in front of me almost, and a whole piece came over me. And I was like, oh, and people were like, weren't you scared? Nope. I said, that was the most peaceful thing I've ever had. I mean, he could have swiped me very easily, but I had a fence there, but he still could have done some damage. And I had my camera, dealt with him, and we talked and everything. And that was the last time I cried about, the bigger situation that happened. I was like, yeah, what I learned was the bear taught me who I was, truly, because an animal will tell you, they can sense your inner being. If you are a horrible person, or like you're a threat or anything, or if you are just like the kindest person in the world, they'll just kind of let you go. Or if you got something medically wrong with you or whatever, they just sense it. And he just sat down and was like, oh, okay, well, like we're just going to have this little thing. I have a picture of him, from that day. But I learned about humans that day.
What did you learn?
I learned that everybody has that anger button, and has we're all like animal, a mammal, whatever. Like we all have that sense to kill, right? It's our choice to do it or not. That bear had a choice to kill me. The humans are a lot meaner than the bears to me, in all honesty. Because we have so much to go off of. But I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm going to accept that. I said, if a bear can tell me I'm nice, I'm not going to allow any human to tell me I'm anything different. So that kind of put up
an amazing experience.
Yeah, so that kind of put up like a nice boundary barrier for my brain to accept a human. And I have trust, but I got better on the trust. It's just I can see it a lot better. Like I can see a person's like, oh, okay, all right, we're not dealing with you. Door closed. No, we're still working on that. But I got better. But yeah, the bear taught me all these animals: the eagles, the bears, the moose. We're all just hanging out, and I'd rather choose the bear, but I still would absolutely choose a human if they're in their proper, pure mindset. I can try to sense that. So that's something I learned that I thought I would share, that little thing. So I always go out into the woods. Like that's my safe space versus being at home.
Yes, that is a lovely place for us to go when we have been so severely abused in childhood, right? Because we can still be with the plants, with the trees, and there's no danger. It can be a really safe place to be with another being. Even if it's not a human being, there's another being there that's being really gentle.
Yeah.
And what you said about the bear is something that I discovered recently, to where, I was in a really deep meditative state of mind, and I was contemplating, what is love? And I had to admit to myself that actually, I don't know. I don't know what love is, like really. And when I admitted that to myself, I started crying. And once I'd cried everything out, the fact that I didn't know what love is, all of a sudden, I realized what love was. and
Right.
I'm remembering this because you talked about the bear, or that's how it came to me. Love is that we know we have claws like the bear. We
Mm-hmm.
can really hurt another human being through our behavior and with our, with words.
Mm-hmm.
And love is when we are very conscious of that, and we are caretaking the other person to such an extent that we will not hurt them.
Yeah.
It also means becoming aware of our trauma, because sometimes when a trauma has been triggered, the claws come out, right? Then
Yep.
we'll yell or we attack to defend ourselves. So if we can become aware of, oh, my trauma has just been triggered, and this is going to be my reaction, either to ignore the other person, to punish them, or to lash out. If I can in that moment realize, oh, those are trauma claws, and I decide to pull them back in,
Right.
to me is love. And this is where it's become so clear, when we think about that, we have not been loved, because a narcissist, that's what they use to manipulate, is their claws. They've never kept them in, they always have them out. So we get injured all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just walk by them and they'll scrape your your spirit somewhere along the way, and they can just stay quiet. It's like, oh, yeah, it's that. Yeah, I really don't think I know anything different. I mean, I do, but in a way of like, I'm scared. I had to figure out my living room situation kind of thing. And I know it's weird for my parents to understand, or anybody else to understand. Like, people normally live in a living room, like the couch, the TV, all that stuff. Me, it's an art room. Like, I had to make sure that I was in a safe space. Like, I didn't know anything. I mean, I knew a living room, but it just wasn't an inviting for me, technically, and different things. Like, I go to people's houses, like, you're not going to get me to like touch everything. I'll sit in the spot, but I'm not going to move. You're not going to blame me for nothing or whatever, or something should come up, whatever. I touched nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I had to learn that that is not a good state of mind to be in, but I, like, the way I operate is a little different, but it's safe for me. But then I'm always told that's not how they like it, or whatever. And I'm like, well, it's not your place to like, you know what I mean? But I'm constantly, and I'm so annoyed by that. Like, and then, so like, if I'm just, like a person, I'm just straight to the point, honestly. And I get called the B word. It's because I'm just straight to the point. There's no gray area at this point. Like,
well, that's already a big step, right? Because we've learned to keep our mouth shut and to walk on eggshells. So if you're able to say things the way they are, that already takes a lot of courage and is a huge step forward.
Yeah, but I feel like I shouldn't have to say it. You know what I mean? I'm so tired of saying it 24/7 kind of thing. And I was like, wow. Because then after about twice, I'm kind of annoyed. And then I want to flip out. Like, because you're not seen after that. Now, I can understand if the person has mental health issues or something, it takes them a minute I can repeat. That's not a problem, like, or whatever. But there's like that accountability of looking at you and actually knowing who you are, or trying to learn who that person is, like, oh, well, if she doesn't like this, all right, well, or whatever, or just your favorite flower or whatever, but instead just keep on going and going and going and pecking at it. And it's like, oh, like does that ever go away? Like, and then I end up in a quiet state, so I don't know if there's an in between to do that. Like, I don't.
Well, I think that when we are with people who are really respectful and loving, they will accept us for who we are, and they might get curious and ask a question, but they won't try and pressure you into something else. So if we feel that we have to explain ourselves again and again and again, that's already a sign that we are, with someone who's not really being very respectful or loving, and maybe that's not a relationship or a connection we want to nourish.
Right. Yeah. So what kind of coping skills would you suggest for that?
Can you tell me like a specific situation?
Like, so if you're outside, like you're not in your home where it's safe and you can just hang up the phone kind of thing. You're stuck in a car with somebody
Mm-hmm.
and they're not yelling, but it's like one of those annoying, well, I do it this way. And, you're just you're a burden and you're this, just kind of heck you
Mm-hmm.
and you're stuck in that position for a minute and you go quiet, but you also have to have a boundary. But even when you say the boundary, they still keep pecking.
Mm-hmm. So
Very,
you're talking about like a narcissistic person, maybe?
yeah,
Yeah.
just in that situation and without blowing up and going out
Yeah.
of character and just without going into a depression, you know what I mean? Like just is there a gray area for that? Because it's either
Mm-hmm.
or. On my end, it's an either or. I always flip out or I go depressed.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think in that moment, the best thing is probably not to not engage, because setting a boundary does not work with a narcissist. They will not respect your boundaries. A boundary with a narcissist only works if you say, if you have a consequence they don't like, right? It says, okay, you either stop now or I'm leaving. Stop now or I'm going to hang up the phone, right? When you can get away. In a situation where you cannot get away, like in the car, my suggestion would be try to not be with them in a situation like that ever. If that's not avoidable and you are stuck in the car with them and they start to berate you or criticize you, there is nothing you can do to stop them in that sense, right? And it's very natural to go into the depressed state until we've done a hell of a lot of work and it doesn't affect us anymore. But when it does affect us in that moment, there really isn't a lot you can do. What I used to do is like I would just not answer and I would try to concentrate on something else. I would hum in my mind or I would say words in my mind that I would like to say, but I will not say them. But at least I've said them myself, Or there are a few techniques to where you can respond in a way that is very discouraging of any further conversation. So you could say, I know you think that. Or yes, I hear you. Because with that, you're not saying, I agree with what you're saying and I'm going to change what I'm doing. It's just saying, I hear you. Yes, I know you believe that. You're always doing everything wrong. You're so and so. Yes, I know you believe that. Or I know you think that.
Okay.
To try to not engage in a conversation, because all they are doing is trying to bait you into a response.
Right.
And then you've lost. So you really don't want to get baited into a discussion of whether they are right or wrong. You don't want to end up in a discussion where you're defending your actions or your choices.
Right.
And so the simple thing to do is just to say, I hear you. No. I hear you. As long as they're talking, then you're kind of safe here because you're not giving them any more material to use against you. And then if they ask you a question, if you say, yeah, I hear you, and they say, don't you agree? You can say, no. Why not? What is your way? Oh, it's complicated. I'm not going to get into it right now. Basically, you're just denying a conversation about the theme that they're doing. And they can say the worst things, I hate you, you're a terrible person. I know you think that. I know you think that. Being a broken record, not giving them any information, not giving them any emotional reaction. That's the way to be with a narcissist or with someone who is not really interested in your feelings, right? It's just like,
Right.
yeah, I know you think that. Don't you? No. What do you think? No, it's too it's complex. I don't want to get into it right now. It's impossible to talk with you. Yeah, I know. You never tell me why. Yeah, I know. Why don't you? Oh, it's complicated. Basically, you're trying to avoid a conversation at all cost, and you're
Right.
limited to always the same things. You can be like a broken record. I know you think that. Yeah, I hear you. You can say I hear you to anything they say. Doesn't mean that you're agreeing, but you're refusing to be part of that conversation. That would be a strategy that I would use.
Okay. Um, now, if we're stuck in a same situation, same place, car, maybe two parents and a child, or the children, or the child and the parent, but it's in the child's version where they literally cannot. They're stuck being the child to that parent, kind of thing. Where we, as adult, we can kind of go somewhere else. Child's kind of stuck in it. Um, how would you suggest that the child kind of come back to things or respond to their parent without disrespecting?
Oof. I have to say that I'm not an expert in that area. I really help people who are adults or able to get away from the parent.
Mhm.
When we are a child, there aren't very many options. I would say if you can, in that moment, just make it through the best way you can. There isn't really a lot you can do, right? Because even if if a child would respond that way, the parent would get very angry.
Right.
It's a narcissist, and they would punish the child for not responding in the way they want, right? So it's very difficult. What I would suggest to the child is, if you can, find parents of other friends, so that you can be around. Try to be away from home as much as you can, with other parents that are nice, that treat you well, that are respectful. If you can, soak up a little bit of their love, and know that when you get out of that house later on, you can change everything around so that you can be fully in charge of your own life. The other thing that they could do in that situation is distract the parent. So, because a lot of narcissists are really prone to flattery. I mean, they love positive attention. Now, it depends on how smart and intelligent the narcissist is. If they're really super smart and they pick up on what you're doing, then this won't work. But if you have like a regular narcissist, flattery can work. So if you even realize they're going to start a fight or they're going to get into something, if you can say something nice, that could completely derail them. When you say, oh, my friend just said how beautiful you look today, or, oh, wow, mom, that blouse really suits you, or whatever it is, or dad, have you been working out? You look so strong, whatever it may be, something that could be flattering. It's like I have succeeded with my mom later on to completely derail her. She could be in the midst of an argument, and if I just out of the blue said, wow, your outfit just looks so put together. I could see that shirt has the same color as the pants. She would go like, oh, right. Oh, yes. And she would go into, oh, I bought it here, and that's why I chose it. She would completely forget about the argument. So for some narcissists, that might work. But in reality, when you are the child stuck in a family, you really don't have a lot of power because you are dependent on your parents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a hard thing to get out of. Absolutely. Are there different types of narcissists?
Yes.
Like I thought it was like a covert and all types of different. What are the different types and examples?
Well, everyone kind of finds, because it has not actually been, it has not been explained really well or figured out or put into words in psychology itself. People who are psychologists and are deeply interested in the subject do begin to see differences, and they give different names. But each person has kind of like their own version of the differences. Like one of the differences that people talk about a lot, that has become very kind of common knowledge, is the difference between the covert and the overt narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the overt narcissist is the narcissist that is more outgoing and is more interested in, is always the best, and they show off, and, I have this much money and I have this much of a job. These are like the really successful narcissists that will rise up in the jobs. They glimmer and they glitter and they look like they're so well put together, and that you can see their ego is really strong. Then there are the narcissists who are a little bit more on the neurotic side and a little bit more introverted side. And their narcissism is a lot more subtle in the sense that they're always the victim. They will not look like the self-confident person, but they're always being put down, and no one pays attention to me, and this is hurting, and I'm trying to help so much, yet no one sees it. It's like it's the victim mode narcissist that is more of a complainer and more of an introverted person. And so they get their attention through pity and through empathy from other people, more so than admiration. Like the overt narcissist will try and gain more fuel or more attention through the amazing things they're doing, and the covert narcissist more through how much they're always the victim, and how they're not loved enough, and how no one ever helps them enough.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know both on different sides. on both sides. Yeah, I'm thinking about it here. Oh man. Now getting into the parent handling the parents, even can two narcissists be in a relationship?
Can two narcissists be in a relationship?
Yeah, is that a possibility?
Yes, it happens.
Actually,
it happens quite a bit, I think. They tend to fuel each other, which is very interesting. I've seen it happen. I don't know how exactly it works, but I think a narcissist receives fuel, we call it fuel, through emotional reactions of the other person. And of course, narcissists are easily triggered into rage, which would then fuel the one narcissist, and then the other one would also lash out. So maybe there's this fueling back and forth. It's very interesting, but yes, it seems to work.
I've never seen it happen, but I've always wondered that, like, if and then having a child in between all that, and then it's like, oh, that would be a building that went on fire that the child's living in, like literally.
Yes, I have clients who are children of two narcissistic parents.
And how are they doing? Like, are they okay? Like,
yeah, they're getting there. It's very hard. They have received a lot deeper wounding, because if you have at least one healthy parent, you receive some unconditional love from them, right? So at least you get portions of it. If you're living with two narcissistic parents, then you never ever have an experience of that. And so the self-doubt and the shame that those children carry is a lot deeper and is a lot stronger.
Yeah. So I I know during my processes and everything, I learned about like I was telling you behind the scenes, the nerve damage, health wise, like what you say, what not just physically hitting somebody, but like literally, like that whole core, building that core and everything when we're born, that nervous system and all those neurons and stuff connect. The non-connection kind of damages and ends up hurting the person that's not narcissistic. Have you seen anybody besides me have that kind of happen to them? Is that their physical abilities are just damaged beyond repair?
Yes. Well, what I know is that when we are growing up with a narcissist, or even if we are in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, our brain changes, right? So, for example, the amygdala expands and grows, which is in the center of the brain. And it's that part of the brain that has to do with alerting us of danger. And so we become hyper aware of anything that could be dangerous, right? That is, so when we walk through life looking for dangerous situations, that's already a big change, right? There's a lot more anxiety happening in our body. And the prefrontal cortex, which is that part of the body where the reasoning happens and the logic and that decision making, which is in the front of the brain, shrinks. And so what is interesting, though, is that when we get out of that narcissistic abusive relationship, the brain adjusts. The amygdala will shrink again and the prefrontal cortex will grow again. So I mean, I'm not that deeply in the research, or I haven't actually seen any brain scans, but that is what I know from science. Mm-hmm. And what I know from my clients is that once they go low contact or no contact or get out of that abusive relationship, over the course of 2-3 months, their brain actually changes. I can feel it when I talk to them, right? They start to find that calm again and that peacefulness, and their emotional overwhelm goes away and changes, and they start to make better decisions. Like I can see that happening when someone goes no contact. I have not been in contact with anyone for whom those changes were permanent, so I don't have experience with that.
Okay, well now you have. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing to see on the scans for sure.
Yeah.
And learning all that, and then learning that the chances as a person, like, you know, just regular stuff like other kids could do, like you can't do. It's not just ADHD or not just autistic stuff. It's literally you got nerve damage from the you know, like the start, or brain damage from the start, or whatever it is. It's not just from that, but it had something to do with things like that.
Yes.
It kind of messes you up. Like, you know, it's like, oh well, I never had a chance, you know, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, you know, like I had babies and stuff. You want to, you know, that you cuddle them to make sure that, you know, the touch, all that stuff helps their neurons connect.
Yes.
It really does mess with a human being on
Mm-hmm.
that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's something I don't want parents to do, is to destroy their children. I hate to say that, but I don't want parents to destroy their children, because it's the most important time of their life, in the beginning of their
Yes.
And when they get on this earth, even before, but still that like giving them at least a chance of something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a feeling at least, and not have a permanent damage.
So important.
Early in their life. Like that's just
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's just parents, it could be grandparents, it could be people in their lives. Just don't yell at your kids or mess with. There's different ways to handle the kids, but you know, that kind of messes up things.
This is where it's so important to become really self-aware, about the ramifications that we still carry from our own childhood, and how we might pass that on to our children, and how can we interrupt that cycle so we can give them a better life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And not knowing, I was in the situation when I had the baby. Well, you know, and I could have helped it before. Like I wasn't that bad or whatever, but I was, it just, like some of I can't get the words out. Of course I nurtured my kids, you know, but still the hurt of things like ran over in a way. And so the kids I tried to keep it away from the kids, but it still like leaks through. Nowadays, I will never let it leak through to my kid. You know, if I had kids now, that would have been a whole different story now.
Yeah.
But not knowing I was under a, I want to say a spell or whatever it was, that under that whole thing that I needed to get clear of. And that's what a lot of people don't know, is that they're under that, you know, even when they get out, they're still in that mindset of hurt or whatever it is, hurting the others, even though they don't want to. It's just they're stuck and healing, and not wanting to heal. They're being in denial. Just never be in denial, because you just need to heal. That's it. Like, you can hurt other people for that, and animals for sure.
Yeah. You know, I think that's one of the things that I realized at some point, is that I'm actually the most dangerous person in the room. You know, it's like I'm always so concerned about other people hurting me, but when I really, really reflected, I realized it's like, wow, you know, I'm also really dangerous. I've got claws like everyone else, and if I really want to love, keep them in, and that means I have to become aware of when they come out, right? And then hold. That's what love is, keeping our claws in, and when we come from a narcissistic house, we have sustained so much pain, and it can be triggered so easily, especially through kids, right? Because they're not they're not predictable. They will say things, they will do things that can really kind of injure our sense of being in charge or in control. And we have never been in control. So that's the one thing we will, you know, we swore to ourselves we'll never lose. And here comes that child who turns our world upside down. And so, yeah, there are a lot of trigger points with kids, and especially when we're young and we haven't done a lot of work around it yet. We haven't had the chance to really observe ourselves in that way, right? And to realize what we're doing and what's going on. And so, yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah,
that's when we hurt our kids.
yeah, and then having kids, I personally didn't do it this way, but I know that people do, is that they have kids they just want somebody to love them.
Oof.
You know, like, or somebody to love. And then it's more dangerous in that situation, because the kid can be harmed in that way, especially like, it's like having a puppy that just, you know, you're hugging so hard, and like one little step, no, and you just wrap its neck, and, you know, or crack the neck, and it's, you know, gone, or something. Like, it's you can really damage. And I've seen a lot of people do that without healing themselves first. Now, I had kids when I wasn't healed myself too, so y'all don't get on me, but I learned throughout the years not to have kids for my benefit. Yeah, they were my angels. Like, my son saved my life when I didn't expect him. Because at 19, well, at 16, I had in my brain that I was going to not be on this earth at the age of 19. I don't know why. I'd never planned a wedding, no, nothing. 19 was the age that I can not see myself past. And my son, even though it was out of unorthodox situations, I had a miscarriage that same year, like in April, and then September, you know, I was pregnant with him. But like right after I had him at 19, I was in the middle of suicide situations, you know, like all that. I actually tried. Like, I was the queen of that at that one point. But having him stopped me from, it actually made me want to live and try, you know? So in that way, he was my angel on that end. And so I tried my hardest, and my hardest wasn't enough, but I guess it was enough now for him, but I still go through some things. But I'm grateful for his family, my family, all of that. Like, we all figured it out, but still during that time, it was just an angel too. But I was able to let him go. It was hard, But as a mom, it wasn't like he had to stay. It sucked, but he needed his dad. You know, a boy needs his dad at age 11. They go into transition and stuff. So that kind of, a lot of people don't want to give up their kids in a way. You know what I mean? They're just holding on. And, but something my son said to me, he said, Mom, I need to go to my dad. I know it hurts and it hurts me. But he was 11 at this point. He said, when I get back, when we see each other again, you're going to be better and everything is going to be okay. And that's exactly what happened. At age 14, I saw him again. I was talking to him, before, but moved to Alaska. I had an apartment in this place here and all that stuff, and we were better off, and I had nothing really in the house back then, and he was just always there and always, he just knew what to say and how to say it. I tried to keep him away, but I tried to keep him, tell him and show him how to deal with feelings. I was kind of low-key jealous of him, like of my kids or whatever, because they got what I didn't have. Mm. You know what I mean? So like I was somehow able to give him love that I didn't know what I had, but the love, like I love all children, all people on that, and like they just deserve to feel love. And I never, I understand it now, but yeah, that right there, I still go through some emotions on that,
Yeah, of course. I mean, what when you realize that it would be better for your son to be somewhere else, that takes a hell of a lot of love to let someone go.
Yeah. And sometimes I tell him, and I feel like I don't deserve to be called mom. Not like I did anything bad to him or, you know what I mean? Like beat him up or whatever. I just, the normal family unit was not there, kind of thing. So his dad has a wife. He has other kids. My dad has a wife. So my kids grew up in an environment with a male and a female, and the kids involved, you know what I mean? And just being the home, going to school, all of that, coming home and having that normal life. That's all I wanted my kids to have a normal life. If I got to step back and have all, and y'all don't like me, I'll take accountability. But as long as you're happy, I'm okay. And I support whatever it is, as long as it's not going to try to kill you or you're going somewhere deep down in the, or if you do not like me, my thing is while I'm on this earth, because I don't want you ranting and raving at my grave, like, oh, why, you were this to me and blah, blah, blah. We could have fixed that like a long time ago. Like while I was here, we could have like really fixed it, and you could have gone on and not have to suffer like I did, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, so I still have those thought processes of I don't deserve it. I don't, whatever. I don't know if they are meant. I mean, my son tells my dad, like my dad said it, my son just loves me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but I can't believe it. Like, I still have that. I want to believe it. I believe it not in public, I guess. Maybe on my own, but not in public.
Interesting distinction.
Yeah. It's just weird.
Yeah. Well, I know that the bond of a child to a mother is so strong that even, with me and my narcissistic mother, I always loved her. I still love her, even with all the with all the hard things. I still love her. There's that thing where we can't help but love our mothers, which is amazing. We have that connection, and no matter what age we are, we would still love to receive that love from our mother. Now, the amazing thing is that your son can still receive that. You're not a narcissist, right? He can receive that love from you. He can feel it. And of course he loves you back, right? For us who've had narcissistic mothers, we might still love them, but we know we'll never get that love back in that way. It's a different way, but not in that way.
Yeah, it's almost like having a split personality in a way, like a split life. Yeah, I guess to me, in that split life, you said, like, you're not going to have that love. That's one life I have to, or one personality or whatever that is at that point. And then the other one, I have to like shut out the one and then deal with the other, but still hurt from the one, because it is still a reality.
Yeah.
And I can't, and as much as I try to shut it out, it doesn't go away. Like, but I also, but putting it all together as one whole self and accepting the whole self, that, yeah, this happened. Okay, I'm this person, but I'm not that person. This, and then just being somebody to be able to help somebody else. That connection, sewing that up and putting those two together and just accepting it.
Accepting yourself, or what are you talking about?
Well, putting those two lives together, like the one with my son. I'm not that. I'm empathetic with my son, but I also know that I have that other, not for me, but I have that life that I had, my past, sewing that up, but accepting that I accept it separately, but together. I can't speak out on it. This is like really the first time I kind of spoke out on it more publicly. Like, I'd rather just sit back in my chair and just, when I die, it goes all with me, kind of thing. Like, but I want my kids to know, I want the people to know, I want to help others and all that stuff, but I can't express it to a point where it's accepting for myself. Like, it's just a whole different, I'm quiet at that point in a way. But yeah. That's where I'm like kind of lost and confused. I'm still working on this situation, but yeah.
Yeah, acceptance. When we get to acceptance, everything changes, right? We know that would be such an amazing place to find, which is kind of like the search, I think, for all of us, is to accept what has happened to us, accept the process we went through, accepting the mistakes we made along the way, accepting where we might have hurt someone else in the process when we were not healed, right? And I think it's about realizing that we were never perfect, and we will actually never be perfect, right? This is where the acceptance can come in slowly, but it's work. It takes work to find that acceptance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely look forward to working for sure. That list that we have is a great list. Yeah, definitely going through all this. Yeah. So if you have questions and going through, like, I just spoke on things that I didn't expect to speak on. Like, it was supposed to be low key, but yeah, just email or get in contact. And if you want to, if you're okay with it, Phoenix, if they can contact you as well.
Absolutely, yes. And I'd be happy to help or answer questions for sure.
Okay. Well, how can they contact you?
They can contact me in many different ways, actually. Is there a way that we can attach it to the show notes, or do you want me to say it out loud?
You can say it out loud, and I can put it up as you say it out loud.
So people can reach me per email, and the email is phoenix@phoenixcore.ca. Core is like CORE. So phoenix@phoenixcore.ca. They can also reach me on WhatsApp with the Canadian number. So it'll be like the +1 is for Canada, and then the number is 780-268-9888. And I just see that it's Phoenix Core, not the P in the end, but an E.
Oh, E. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. See Phoenix tour. Okay. All right. Okay. So, oops. Is that correct?
That's it. That's perfect. Yes.
So that's the email.
Mm-hmm.
And the WhatsApp.
The WhatsApp is the fastest way to reach me because I'll probably respond within a few hours. And that is, +1 for Canada, depending on where people are calling from. If they're calling from the States, of course, then I don't need it. And the area code is 780
Mm-hmm. Got it.
268
Okay.
9888.
9888. Okay. So
That's not my phone number. That's just my WhatsApp number. And I can also be found under Phoenix Gold on Facebook.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook and Phoenix Gould, right?
That's correct. Yes. Those are probably the best ways of reaching me.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram under Healing from the Narcissist altogether.
Okay. Instagram Healing from the Narcissist. That's a hard word to spell. I don't know why.
That's it. That's it. Hold on.
Is that correct?
Healing from the Narcissist. Yes, perfect.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to getting into strategies with you and how to start the healing and all of that, because it is so possible. I have come such a long way. I did not think in my whole life I would ever get where I am right now. So I'm so happy about my journey, and I'm excited to talk about what's possible and how to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely look forward to opening these pores up and really actually healing and everything, and putting work in, because that's something we always have to do. We can't just go to a therapist and not work and just be like, oh, how is it? How do you feel about it? I don't know. Kind of thing. That's something I've learned over the years in therapy, is you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And really, in a way, we want to be able to, I know we can't always be, like some people can't. They always need somebody like a therapist, like every week, like me, I need it every week. But we should be able to open the seed up, work so well and get healed, and open that seed up for somebody else to be there to start getting healed as well. We should be able to say, see you later to our therapist, and thank you, and thank them, because they do the work, and they do have a lot of things on their mind as well. As soon as they get off of therapy, they're most likely in therapy from us too, because they have so many different personalities coming at them. That's a lot, but don't worry. But definitely therapy is something very, very good to have, and to really work on yourself in all types of things, a lot of coping skills in different lives. We can't just go through with denial at all. It's not going to work. It's done. Like, we see how the world's going now. So yeah, just.
If I may say something, I remember before I went into therapy, I was so scared to go, because I thought then I have to look at all the bad things, and I'm just going to feel worse. And my experience was so different. For the first time, actually, I had someone who was looking at me through the eyes of unconditional regard, positive regard. Finally, it was someone who, no matter what I said, would just always see the best in me, which I'd never experienced. So that's the next best thing to unconditional love, is that unconditional positive regard, and who would always use whatever I exposed to find a way to heal. And after each session, I just felt better. I expected to feel worse, but it just, after each session, I just felt a little bit more empowered, a little bit more empowered, a little bit more empowered, which was so fantastic, which is why that is so nice. As
Yeah.
you're saying, you can have someone by your side who takes your hand and walks that way with you, so you don't have to do it on your own, right?
Yeah. I've hired and fired so many therapists because over the years they, not saying all of them, but there are those ones that are, they think they're it, and they try to make you feel or gaslight you or something, and to making you think that this is it. You can't heal. You gotta, take these meds. Now, meds are good on certain things. I've learned that myself. Like, I had to take meds to calm myself down in order to start healing. My brain wouldn't stop. So like the meds would calm me down enough to where I can actually read and like, okay, and then I can eventually try to learn about the meds, learn about different things I can take after, whatever. I really worked with my therapist. And so like one therapist, it was a med. He got so mad at me, like, and they shouldn't be, he got so mad at me because I started to look at the what do you call it on the meds, the side effects of the meds. And two of them didn't work right with me. One of them was diabetes and the other one was death. I was like, oh, like, even though I was mentally ill, I kind of don't want to die and I don't want to have diabetes, like that. And I actually questioned it. You're allowed to question, just, be respectful and all that stuff, work with your therapist. But I was like, well, I don't have diabetes. At that point in time, I did not have diabetes. I was fine. It should not happen. Why do I need to take a med that's going to give me diabetes? Right. So add extra things. And he's like, well, just take the med and we'll watch out for diabetes. Why do I need that extra? Like, why? Why do I need the extra things to watch out for the diabetes? I don't want the extra, what do you call it? The extra appointments and stuff like that. That's unnecessary. And I was like, I also don't want to die. I'm not taking the med. Like,
well, good for you. Good for you for checking it, because some people don't. And of course, when we are in an emotionally overwhelmed state, sometimes we just don't have the clarity or the strength or the energy to look. But, I'm so glad you did. And you stood up for yourself. And, yes, I mean, there's so many alternatives now, right?
Yeah. That was back in the beginning of my stages. And I went to the mental health unit and did that round a couple times. And I learned that different places are different. Well, they're all different, but I found that Alaska actually has the best mental health unit. And they work well with you over at Providence. But I learned, they actually sat with you and talked with you and all that stuff. And now I did have an interesting therapist throughout my life talking about I shouldn't have kids. Like, wasn't happy about that, and I ended up coming in with a kid. But throughout the years, after speaking up for myself and being told that I didn't have a voice, and I had to take a lot of heat from between people who were quote unquote normal and like, oh, well, you're just off your rocker or whatever it is, or you need to listen to your therapist, your brain is just chemically imbalanced. Okay, but I still can stick up for myself. It's hard to speak up.
Yes.
Especially with a professional who went to school, and did all that, and they know better than us. But over the years, I learned it's okay.
Especially when you've learned your whole life that you don't have a voice and that you shouldn't speak up and that you have to follow other people's wishes and instructions, right? That makes it twice as hard.
Yeah. And I also learned in the mental health unit itself, a lot of the people who had different things, like there was a lot of the rapes and stuff do go on. Like I've been part of some interesting stuff, and a lady who was, it really opened my eyes. A lady who was definitely mentally not there, schizophrenic. You know, people. She kept on saying that something happened to her. You know, and she was consistent in her story. It wasn't like she was off, anywhere. But they gaslit her in the mental health unit. And so the parents of that person believed the therapy, the therapist and all this thing, and saying that it's her schizophrenia, nothing happened. I was there, like, you know what I mean? So like, I definitely, but this stuff happens. And I just want to say to like everybody, really, even if it's bogus and that she quote unquote lies or the person lies, look into it. Really do. That gaslighting is real, and it's very heavy, and it is used throughout. Like, I'm in psychology and all that stuff too, but like, I'm not saying nothing bad about the world, but that stuff happens in that world. So you have to really learn who your therapist is, who your doctors are, who sticking up for yourself and everywhere, and learning those cues of being gaslit, and the gaslighting and whatnot. And it starts to heal you as you grow into who you are supposed to be. But therapy is good. Like, find somebody who will make you work, have a workbook, worksheets. If they ask you questions, it's okay to ask how you're feeling about it, but that shouldn't be the only question. I also learned that different things in my life, if I didn't need a certain thing and we already fixed it all, and I need certain help, like say if I was a hoarder, I want a therapist, like I'll pick another therapist, like, okay, I want somebody who specializes in hoarding as well, and not just a random therapist, because there are specialties, and that way you guys can focus on, that, and keep moving forward. It's just something, there's a lot in the mental health world that that's out there that people are scared to speak up on, and I just wanted to start speaking up on that, in a good way, and exposing the other side of it too, and trying to help parents or other people, or the people who are going through, how to maneuver in that and not be so scared to go through it, because it definitely is worth working through your life. And I think that's why a lot of people are in denial as well. It's a bad rep. Okay. I want to, is there anything that's on your mind that before we go and prepare for the next segment?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Your audio was a little different.
Was there anything else on your heart or your mind that you wanted to tell everybody before we go and then prepare for the next segment?
Yes. I mean, I would love to talk about radical self-love, because that is such a powerful healing tool, and it's actually, I've found the way that makes it super easy to practice radical self-love, and that's been really powerful for many people. So I would love to share it so that your listeners can use it.
Okay. Oh, we'll do that next episode.
Sounds good.
Self-love. We'll make sure that happens. Definitely. Thank you for coming on.
It's been a pleasure, Christina. Thank you.
Yeah. And I look forward to the next episode. I don't know when we're going to do all these episodes. They're just going to be random, but we're going to make sure that every episode is up and everything. So let us know if you want it live or recorded or what, but it's going to happen and you're going to heal. So we definitely love you, and to make sure that you get proper training and keep moving forward, be the best version of yourself that we know you can be. And don't let nobody tell you any different, that you're a horrible person. Please don't believe that. But yeah. So with that being said, in Alaska Native, the Naina language, Chinan means thank you. And so thank you, Chinan, for watching this episode and participating in it. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and let's keep moving forward.